So first of all, you are the writer and director and lead actress of this movie. My first question is, where did you find time to sleep during this project? And second, where did you kind of come up with the idea?
Sleep. What's that?
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I think every person in the entertainment business like knows that basically during production you're like a zombie person and like your whole life
Mhm.
is consumed with that. And then you're like, God, I can't wait to sleep and like rest after this. And actually on the last day, you're like, how do I get back? I want to go back, you know? So yeah, it was definitely crazy to wear so many hats, and this film
Mhm.
took, a lot of years to put together and to raise the financing and do all the things. So yeah, it was definitely a journey. So I can't remember if I ever have slept since, but someday. And yeah, to answer your question of where it, where the idea came from, is it's based on true events from my life. When I was 23, I attempted to end my life. And more times than I'd like to admit. Um, and basically I look at those years and I'm a completely different person. I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a director. When if you would ask me 5 years ago, like let alone 10 or longer, if I thought I'd be directing movies, I'd have been like, no, I'm an actor. And I'm
Yeah.
like, and now directing is my entire life, and it's my career, and what I feel is like one of my purposes of being on this planet. So,
Hmm.
the entire journey started so that I could show others out there that are struggling that they're not alone, and talk about a
Hmm.
subject that a lot of people um are afraid to talk about, and that society's told us is a little bit taboo. And I feel like the only way to change that is by having the hard conversation. So I fought vigorously to have this conversation.
Well, yeah, that was one of the other questions I was going to have is, what are some of the inspirations you had for Continue, and kind of how do you pitch a movie like this to a studio? Because it is a very personal and emotional film.
Yeah, I mean, I never got to pitch it to a studio. They were like, "No, we're not talking about mental health. I saw your log line. Like, that's just not happening." I always knew it would be a small indie film that, I hope catches fire, and my audience finds it. It was definitely met with a lot of adversity, like a lot
Mhm.
of people who wanted me to pull a lot of punches and make it more Hollywood and make it more pretty and have, all the ribbons tied up in a nice bow. And while I think that that's great for some filmmakers and for some films, it wasn't, it, there would be no point with continuing. No one who is in the depths and darkness is going to see themselves in like the pretty girl that gets everything she ever wanted after she
Yeah,
was sad, you know? And
exactly.
and so exactly. So I had to fight really hard to show people that I felt the world was ready, and B, that the whole purpose and thesis of the film is also some of the twists and turns, like, because you've seen the film, like I have
Hmm.
some big surprises along the
Hmm.
way. And I had to fight really hard for that because, again, I think people were like, we have a model and we know that model works. And if you go outside of that, we don't know if it'll work. And I'm like, but look at people like Fight Club or David Fincher or
Right.
M. Night. I never know how to say
Yeah,
his last name.
Shyamalan. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Although he's one of my favorite directors, and Darren
Mhm.
Aronofsky and all of them, the reason they became the filmmakers they are is by taking big swings and being
Mhm.
brave enough to do something that felt right to them, and following their vision. And so I knew, and like again, you asked like what inspired it. Like Girl Interrupted changed my entire life. Angelina Jolie made me drop out of high school at 16 years old and move to Los Angeles, have three jobs from the age of like 16 till 30, and pursue this wild, career. And that's the power of film. And I knew that. And so I knew that I had to make this movie and that I wouldn't stop fighting until I did. And I knew it would find its audience. And like every person that I've met at all the festival screenings or, even in these interviews, it's like,
Mhm.
I knew people were ready. And it makes me so happy. It makes me emotional, honestly, because, especially when I finished the film and initial filming, the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, people want Ted Lasso. They don't want your film. And I like exact words I was told. And I said, I disagree with you strongly because I think that we have an approaching pandemic of its own of mental health and depression, and suicide rates are going to skyrocket and are skyrocketing. And I think now is the time for that conversation. And I said, and the worst part is I know that it's going to take it getting worse before you'll see that I'm right. And lo and behold, exactly what I said happened. And then
Mhm.
all of a sudden people were ready to have a conversation in a different light. And again, like, it's that divine thing. My second film, Desperation Road, with Mel Gibson and Garrett Hedlund and all of those amazing humans, introduced me to Lionsgate and Grindstone, and Barry Brooker, who is the executive who made all of this happen at Lionsgate and Grindstone. And it's because he knew the world needed this message, and he wanted
Mhm.
to be the one exec who took a chance on me and who believed in me. And it changed my life. It changed the trajectory of Continue's life, like the film it's going to have. And and not to mention, part of the proceeds from this film go to charity. So like, I actually hope it can save a life and really change people's lives, not just with the message of the film, but with the proceeds that we raise, that I hope will help.
Yeah, that's incredible. I did not know that part, so thank you for clarifying that. And I did have that question because, online it does show Continue as a 2022 film, but then Desperation Road as a 2023 film. So I was curious about the order, and what did you take, since you kind of clarified it, off of Continue that helped you work on your future film and decide directing is where you want to go for the rest of your life?
I knew the second I shot Continue that directing was where I wanted to go for the rest of my life. It's so funny. I started this journey so I could be an actor and so I could actually like pour my soul out as an actor, especially with something so personal and something that was so important to me.
Hmm.
And through going through that process, I found my purpose. Like
Hmm.
filmmaking, writing, impact is my purpose. And so it's kind of like those unforeseen little divine gifts that, it's like only through the process did, something greater unfold. And um, what did I take with from Continue to Desperation Road is that if I had never made Continue, and especially wore every hat that was humanly possible, I could have
Yeah.
never made Desperation Road and produced, because I side by side produced that film with Cassian Elways, who was an EP on this film as well. And so to wear multiple hats on Desperation Road as well, not to mention most people don't know this, but I made Desperation Road in 16 days.
Wow.
Yeah. And we had in that movie 2 car crashes, a sexual assault, a minor
Yeah.
every day, all of these things, right? And if I had never gone through the craziness of wearing 27 hats on Continue in a very small budget and a very small time, I could have never gone and done it kind of again with Desperation Road. So, Continue was my film school. It taught me what you can never learn, at a desk in school. It was in real time lessons. And I also ended up selling the film myself because of my relationship with Lionsgate and Grindstone. So like, I took a movie from inception, literally an idea to a script to putting it together. I raised every dime of financing with my producers. I invested my life savings. I ended up homeless just to finish it and living with my parents for the first time since 15 so that I could pay what I was paying in rent in LA to credit card
Yeah.
debt, finish the damn movie because of the pandemic, So it was just like everything about it taught me every level of filmmaking, and it changed my life. It changed who I am as a filmmaker also, and it made me realize I don't want to make films that I'm not very deeply embedded in. Like I'm like, I want to
That's
produce every
reasonable.
movie
Yeah.
I do, you know?
Hmm.
So
And
yeah.
then, so as a producer, did you also work to figure out the casting? Because I think that's one of the real standouts of Continue, is in addition to your performance, you also get a great one out of Charlotte Fernandez. You get an excellent one out of Leo Tipton. Kind of tell us about that process of making sure that you have that like top tier talent in this indie drama.
Yeah, well, I mean, it really helps that I had incredible casting directors who have made amazing, amazing films. So I think it also helped people to pay attention to the script. And then not to mention I had Cassie and Elwes, who, you know, EP of Dallas Buyers Club, Blue Valentine, all these amazing little films. So they knew like, all right, this is an indie, maybe we take a chance on. But with them in particular, I mean, they were offers. I made those offers knowing that those were my humans. Like, they are people I was a big fan of, and Shiloh and I had met a couple times in different circles, and I just really like connected with who he was as a human being. And so, yeah, I knew they were my people. We made the offer and they read it and connected. And when we met, we just like fell for each other. And it was like, that's who I want to go to war with, you know? And honestly, they're such incredible actors and creators. They were so game at every turn. And, you know, it's just like, I wonder all the time if I'll ever be able to repeat the experience that we had on Continue, because it was like, I always joke, it was like, it's the prisoners running the prison.
Yeah.
Like, there was no one overseeing us. Like, we were the highest there was, because we also helped finance it. Like, we were the people. And so we got to experiment and have fun and play. And that's something I want to take with me, you know, to every single project, is to remember, you know, collaboration to me is my favorite part of the entire process. But so it's like, continue to play, continue to collaborate, like, you know, let the best idea win. So.
Well, and then you and Shiloh have that really intense fight about halfway through the movie, maybe a little bit over. Kind of tell us about what the vibes were like on set that day and how you were able to keep that emotion in the film, because it is such a harrowing sequence.
Thank you. Yeah, it's one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie. And I think it's because it did feel very much like lightning in a bottle, because he and I have such a close relationship and trust. And so the way that I kind of laid that out was like, he got to set early on, and so that we could talk about the parameters of the scene and the way that that kind of looks for me, because I don't plan anything as an actor. Like, I'm not gonna tell you what I'm gonna do, because I have no idea what I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna see how it comes up in the moment, and I'm going to try and live as freely and in the moment as I can. So we just put guidelines around. It was like, is there anything that's off limits? Is there anything? And like, I was like, hit, slap, whatever, you know, going through all the things. He was like, only parameter is please don't hit me with that whiskey bottle. And it was like, I would never hit you with a whiskey bottle. He's like, that's it. That's all I have. Like, don't hit me with the bottle. You can hit me as much as you want, just not with the bottle. I was like, you're safe. And then I didn't let him see me the whole rest of the day. I didn't want to connect. I didn't want him to know what he was walking into. I wanted it to be pure and utter shock, because really Trenton there is just waiting for his girlfriend to come home from, you know, where she is. And when she comes through that door, that is not what he's expecting. And that's exactly what it was. And that whole scene was shot in 2 takes. And wow. There's one cut in between where you can see that I go to the angle that shows him a little bit better. So it was like, I got one and he got one. And really, we both knew it didn't need anything else. Like, it was completely visceral. And I was vomiting from simulating drunk for so vigorously. And like, it was just, I felt it in my body. And I'm like, there's no way you feel it that deeply in your body, and it's not on that camera, you know? So it was like, and he was so game. And after the first take, he was like, you have to let me go again. You have to. I wasn't expecting that. Like, I was like, we will. And the producers were like, please. My producer and partner on this project, Jay Seals, like, you know, him and my husband were my 2 producers. And I look at them and they're crying hysterically. And they're like, please don't make us watch that again. Like, you know, like, we have it. And Shiloh's like, you have to let me
one more time.
Like, we're going again. Don't you worry. Like, I you know, and we did. And you see, like, we laid it all on the line, and I'm really proud of what we created, because again, it felt so visceral to shoot it. It felt so real life. And I think that, those are the experiences we seek as creators. We're like, how can I, you know, how can I defy reality? And so, yeah, I mean, that scene was just so fun. I know that's so dark to say, but it was so fun to shoot.
Well, it's such a great and emotional moment in the movie, and I think it really does catalyze a lot of what you're discussing in the film, just in terms of where we are at with our interpersonal relationships when we are struggling with depression, with these issues. It can be a lot, and even the people we love the most are the ones we push back on. Well, thank you so much for your time, Nadine. I really do appreciate this movie and your time with us. I hope you have an excellent time releasing this, and what a debut. So thank you so much.